The knock on Daniel's door came like a ghost from the past, soft but heavy with unspoken history. He opened it without thinking, and the sight stole the air from his lungs. Sasha stood there, a shadow of the woman he'd loved fiercely 7 years ago. Her once radiant face was now gaunt, etched with exhaustion and grime, her dreadlocks limp and frayed, barely framing her hollow cheeks. Her faded orange shirt hung torn at the sleeves, but her eyes, those deep, soulful eyes, still burned with the same fire that had haunted his dreams. Beside her clung a small boy, 6 or 7 years old, his clothes tattered, his dark skin smudged with dust. His wide, wary eyes locked onto Daniel, carrying the weight of too many hungry nights and too few safe places. "Can I clean your house for food?" Sasha's voice was barely a whisper, fragile yet resolute, each word a plea wrapped in pride. Daniel's heart stuttered. "Sasha," he managed, his voice cracking like dry wood. She flinched at her name, but her gaze held steady, a faint nod confirming her identity. His grip tightened on the doorframe, anchoring him against the flood of emotions, anger, longing, confusion, surging through him. 7 years, he said, his voice low, trembling with barely restrained pain. 7 years you vanished without a word, and now you're here, asking to clean my house. Sasha's lips quivered, but her eyes didn't waver. "I didn't come for you," she said hoarsely, her hand resting protectively on the boy's shoulder. "I came for him. He's hungry." Daniel's gaze dropped to the boy, whose thin frame seemed to shrink under the weight of his stare. "What's his name?" he asked, his voice softer now, though his jaw clenched tight. "Malik," Sasha said, her tone tender but guarded. "Is he?" Daniel's words faltered, his heart pounding with a question he wasn't sure he wanted answered. "Is he mine?" Sasha shook her head quickly, almost desperately. "No, he's my nephew." Relief and curiosity tangled in Daniel's chest. Nephew? Where was her family? Why was she here, looking like she'd been running from the world itself? "You shouldn't be here," he said, sharper than he intended, his voice thick with the ache of old wounds. Sasha's expression wavered, her lips trembling, but she stood taller, as if shielding Malik from the sting of his words. "Please, Daniel. Just some bread. I'll scrub your floors, clean your windows, anything. I can't let him go another night without food." Malik's small voice broke through, fragile but brave. "Mom, I'm okay," he whispered, though his skinny arms tightened around Sasha's waist, clinging to her like she was his only tether to safety. The sight cracked something deep in Daniel's chest. This wasn't the Sasha he'd known, the vibrant, fearless woman who'd filled his world with laughter and warmth. This was someone else, worn down by life, yet still standing fierce and protective in front of this boy. "Why?" Daniel's voice softened, almost breaking. "Why did you leave me?" Sasha's eyes shimmered with unshed tears, her breath catching. "I didn't leave because I wanted to," she said, her voice barely audible. "I left to save you." Daniel froze, his heart pounding. "What are you talking about?" Tears spilled down her cheeks now, carving tracks through the grime. "My brother, he got in deep with dangerous people. They wanted to use me to extort you, Daniel. When I refused, they threatened your life. Said if I didn't disappear, they'd come for you. I had no choice." The words hit like a punch, stealing his breath. All this time, he'd carried the weight of her absence like a betrayal, and now, this? "And the boy?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. Sasha's arms tightened around Malik, her voice breaking. "My brother's gone. He left Malik behind, alone and scared. I found him hiding in an abandoned house, starving. I couldn't leave him." Daniel's mind reeled, the pieces of her story stitching together into a tapestry of sacrifice and survival. He stepped aside, his voice low and raw. "Come in." Sasha hesitated, her eyes searching his for a trap, but she adjusted Malik on her hip and crossed the threshold. The cool marble of the foyer felt like another world against her calloused, bare feet. Malik's grip tightened, his wide eyes darting around the opulent space, overwhelmed by its grandeur. "Stay close," she whispered, her voice a lifeline for them both. Daniel led them to the kitchen, his movements stiff, his hands clenched at his sides. "Sit," he said, more command than invitation. Sasha eased Malik into a chair, her own body sinking wearily beside him. The boy's small frame seemed to collapse inward, his breaths shallow from exhaustion. Daniel opened the fridge, pulling out bread, cheese, and a handful of apples. He set a plate in front of Malik, his voice softening. "Eat." Malik's hands trembled as he reached for the bread, his eyes flicking to Sasha for permission. She nodded, her smile small but warm. "It's okay." He took a cautious bite, then devoured the food with a hunger that twisted Daniel's heart. Daniel turned to Sasha, his voice cold but laced with pain. "Now talk. I let you in. You owe me the truth." Sasha's gaze lingered on Malik, drawing strength from his presence. "After I left, they kept me under watch," she began, her voice steady but heavy. "My brother owed debts to people who don't forgive. He thought he could use me to get to you, your money, your name. When I refused, they made it clear, if I didn't vanish, you'd be the one to pay." Daniel's jaw tightened, his hands gripping the counter. "I had no idea." "You weren't supposed to," Sasha said, her voice bitter with regret. "I thought disappearing was the only way to keep you safe." "You could have come to me," Daniel said, his voice cracking with the weight of years lost. "We could have fought them together." Sasha's eyes glistened, her voice barely above a whisper. "They weren't the kind you fight, Daniel. They would have destroyed you." His gaze softened, seeing not the woman he'd loved but the one before him now, scarred, weary, but unyielding in her love for the boy beside her. "And Malik?" he asked. She brushed a hand over Malik's tangled hair, her touch gentle but fierce. "My brother didn't make it. Malik had no one. When I found him, he was terrified, hiding in a filthy corner of an abandoned house. I couldn't let him end up like me." Malik's small hand gripped hers, his eyes wide with trust and fear. Daniel exhaled shakily, running a hand over his face. "All this time," he murmured, "I hated you for leaving. And you were protecting me." Sasha's tears fell freely now, her voice a broken whisper. "I hated myself, too." Silence settled over the kitchen, heavy with the weight of their shared past, broken only by the soft sound of Malik eating. Finally, Daniel spoke, his voice firm but warm. "You don't have to run anymore." Sasha's head snapped up, her eyes wide. "What?" "Stay here. Both of you. No more streets, no more hunger." Her lips trembled, disbelief warring with hope. "Daniel, I can't ask that of you." "You didn't ask," he said, his voice steady. "I'm offering." Malik's small voice broke the moment, soft and uncertain. "Are you gonna send us away?" Daniel crouched to meet the boy's gaze, his heart aching at the fear in those wide eyes. "No," he said gently. "No one's sending you anywhere." Malik's eyes welled with tears as he flung his arms around Sasha, burying his face in her neck. Daniel stood, his resolve hardening. "You gave up everything to protect me, Sasha. Let me protect you now." That night, as Sasha tucked Malik into a warm bed, the first real bed he'd known in weeks, Daniel lingered in the doorway, watching the small family he'd never expected to find again. "You saved me once," he said quietly, his voice thick with emotion. "Let me save you this time." Sasha's eyes shimmered with tears as she whispered, "You already have." The next morning, Daniel made a call, his voice cold and unyielding. "Find out who's left from the people who hurt her. I want them gone." As he hung up, he glanced at Sasha and Malik, sleeping peacefully in the guest room, and made a silent vow, this time, no one will take her from me.